you'd be quite a fool to cross. Nanny Hazel Doss. Sure, she seems sickeningly sweet when you first meet, but there's something shady about this sweet old lady. Her facade is uncanny. She's the giggling granny. Her evil came out due to circumstance. She never really had a fair chance. When her life began to careen, nobody said, "Come on, Aileen." Their actions were undeniably evil, but her friends only cared for a sequel. Forgiveness for Wuornos is out of the question. This monster faced lethal injection. Their victim count is a sea of names. The families that lost were never the same. Don't fuck around or play any games when dealing with these dangerous dames.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
Da 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 da.
Two gays walk into a bar. All right. Let's fuck. All right.
All right, guys.
Here we are.
Welcome back.
The much awaited.
The much awaited
Dangerous Dames.
Dangerous Days.
It's women who have killed. But first, I have something to get off my chest.
What is that?
The Hunchback of Notre Dame is an underrated movie.
Is it underrated?
I think so. People don't talk about it. It hasn't seen the live-action Disney fucking reboot thing yet, and I haven't seen any plans for it unless that exists. But there should be a live-action Hunchback of Notre Dame.
If there was a live-action, that would be pretty cool. That would be very interesting.
That would be fucking cool. Who would play? Dude, John C. Reilly as Quasimodo?
John C. Reilly?
You have seen Step Brothers?
Oh my gosh.
You know?
Oh my
Imagine him as
gosh.
Quasimodo, dude.
Wait a second.
That's a great idea.
That sounds,
Is it? Is it a good idea?
Sounds like a good idea.
Who would play Esmeralda?
Esmeralda.
Like Sofia Vergara or some shit? No, she's annoying. Sorry.
Let's see.
Who would play good Esmeralda? Scarlett Johansson. I'm just kidding. Obviously somebody like, man, but there's a part of the Hunchback. God,
what's her name? Salma Hayek.
Selma Hayek?
Yeah.
Hayek? Yes, she would be a great Esmeralda, actually.
Yes.
She looks the part, she sounds the part, she's beautiful, she's a great actress.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen her do great things and great works. Like the Grown Ups movies.
Oh my god, she's
Oscar-winning Grown Ups movies. She's amazing. But no, like, probably my favorite part of the Hunchback of Notre Dame is when the priest dude, I forget his name, but the big bad evil dude, villain of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, he's lusting after Esmeralda, and he just breaks out into this, and he has this wonderful baritone voice, and he just breaks out into a song called Hellfire, where he's talking about like things being licentious and flesh and bone being burned off your body. I'm like, this is a Disney movie?
This is a children's movie?
Disney makes their films actually pretty dark, even today. If not dark, at least with adult themes.
Yeah.
Like Inside Out being as emotional as it is, you know.
That movie broke my heart.
Oh my god, that movie tugs my heartstrings like no other.
It was so...
One of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good.
Moana.
Moana was one of my top Disney movies ever made.
I saw it multiple times in the theater, and that is really unusual for me. I usually don't do that.
Yeah.
I loved Moana. Do you think they usurped Frozen for having like the most epic hit song out of it? Because Frozen had Let It Go, That's
mean,
that's a
but
very memorable song
think about the amount of products and stuff that were sold
from Frozen.
from Frozen.
The thing was
compared to
basically
Moana.
marketed everywhere, and Frozen was like on the radio and shit. I don't know how much
Yeah.
Moana was on the radio, which
I
is
don't think Moana
like,
was on the radio.
like it doesn't mean a lot to be on the radio, but I'm just saying it was just a little more widespread. You know, like it hit all the talk shows. Like Idina Menzel was everywhere, or as John Travolta would say, Adina Nazi. That's how he fucking introduced her during some award show. He couldn't like read the teleprompter or like say her name properly, and he just completely fucked it up.
Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem.
And now welcome the wickedly talented Adine. I don't fucking remember exactly what he says, but he flubs it really hard.
Yeah.
Kind of like John Travolta just has been doing a lot lately. Oh!
Ooh.
Just with his career.
Burn.
Ouch.
John Travolta, if you're listening.
Sorry about it.
Sorry about it.
So, what's one of your favorite Disney songs? Because we talked about Let It Go. We talked about the Moana one, which I can't even really name right now. How Far I'll Go, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that one. Also, You're Welcome from Moana, Hellfire from Hunchback. What's some other like iconic Disney songs?
Under the Sea.
Under the Sea,
Little
dude.
Mermaid.
Under the Sea. Is that the most famous from Little Mermaid? I would think so, right?
Either Under the Sea or Ursula's song.
Ursula's song, which
I can't remember it.
I'm having a hard time.
Oh
It's
my
been
gosh,
a good while since
I'm
I've
a
seen Little Mermaid.
sinner. I love that movie. I don't know why I can't
Yeah,
remember.
well, then that just lends credibility to the fact that Under the Sea is probably more famous because that's the easiest to remember by far. It just had the most mainstream appeal.
Or,
I would think.
look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't
Yeah,
you think
yeah.
my collection's complete? Yeah.
Yeah,
That song.
that one's pretty iconic. The whole movie kind of is,
It's
honestly.
so good.
Scar's bit from The Lion King, you know, where he's like, be prepared, and he basically turns into Hitler.
Prepared.
He basically turns into the lion Hitler because he has all the hyenas just like in rank and file, just like perfect formation, just like stomping down, just like thousands of them,
Just rows and
just
rows.
like Nazis. And I'm pretty sure that's what they were going for. Like I'm not even bullshitting. Like I think that was actually the point, and it's cool. It's cool.
Another
It
very
gets the point
iconic.
across that he's like evil.
Yeah. Another very iconic Disney movie would be Tangled. Tangled is one of
Dude,
my top.
how did I forget about
10.
Tangled? It's always been one of my favorites,
Oh my
actually.
gosh,
I really
it's-
like Tangled.
It's so good.
Its rewatchability is so high, right? Because
Yeah.
like I can probably watch that movie at least like once a week and still be
I can
good- decently
yeah,
entertained by it.
yeah.
It's a good
so
film.
good.
What are some songs from it though?
Are
Are there any like truly memorable songs from Tangled?
flower gleam and glow?
Okay, yeah, there's
Let
that.
your power shine.
I think that movie
Make
is
the clock reverse. Bring back what once was mine.
well. I think that movie is less memorable for its songs and more memorable just for how funny and well made it is.
Yeah.
You know, like
Mhm.
its songs are entertaining, but none of them are really screaming out to me. You know, any more songs? Of course, there's like the whole Jungle Book, like "Whoopie doo, I wanna be like you." You know, there's that.
Yes. Jungle
And
Book.
Jungle Book is all good.
All of them.
It's all fun and games till the Jungle Book comes out. What? I don't know. So how's your week, PJ? I noticed you're wearing makeup.
Yes, yes.
Wanna talk about that?
Are you projecting, Tristan?
Maybe, I don't know. I was kind of planning on wearing makeup. I was kind of dabbling with potentially doing some like John Wayne Gacy-esque makeup, like red diamonds around the eyes, you know. But then again, I kind of figured maybe not best to emulate someone who raped and murdered children, you know. Oh, trigger warning for this episode, by the way.
Trigger warning.
We are talking about very sensitive topics, including murder, sexual assault, and infanticide even. So I would really suggest, if you're sensitive to that sort of thing, just kind of skip this one, you know. So there's a trigger warning out of the way. you have anything? Okay, wait.
You asked me how my week was.
How the fuck was your week, dude?
It was all right.
Get it together, PJ.
You just kept asking me questions, bitch. You was the one that just kept going.
We need to get a goddamn fucking routine with this because we haven't introduced ourselves, right? Should we do that?
What?
Should we introduce ourselves?
I mean, yeah.
All right. I am the incredible Mr. T.
I am a peach. Also, my hair is red now.
Oh, shit. Yeah, it is. And it matches his glasses. His glasses be red. It's kind of like a whole look we got going on. It's pretty good. I got my whole black floral tie, pink button up, feeling frisky.
Frisky.
Know what I'm saying, boy? Man, I don't even know. Like, what is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of anything? What is any of this? Right? What is good and evil? Does evil truly exist in the construct that is life? Does evil objectively exist, PJ? Define objective good and objective evil. Tell me. I don't believe it exists.
Ooh.
I think good and evil are subjective.
I don't think good and evil are subjective.
We should probably... Maybe we could talk about that in, like, an episode where we talk about, like, philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche, where things like that come up in their philosophy. Oscar Wilde even kind of dabbled in good and evil a little bit.
Yeah.
As a philosopher. All right. Today,
How was your week, Tristan?
Okay. My week was good. Basically did nothing but work on the podcast, clean the house, cuddle our dogs. Fucking, we are just breezing through RuPaul's Drag Race like there's nobody's fucking business. Yeah. Oh, speaking of drag, I thought of a new drag name. Last episode, it was Ivana Rock or Ivana Suckerdick. But now I have changed it, and I think it's going to be my final decision because I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's super sexy, okay? Ivana Sin.
Ooh, bitch, that's hot.
Sexy. That's a sexy name.
Yeah.
But my issue is if I was going to be a drag queen, I don't know if I'd be like a sexy drag queen. I don't know if that's what I go for all the time.
I feel like your main thing would probably be comedy.
Thank you. I feel like I would be kind of a comedy queen.
You'd be the very comedy queen-esque type. I'd be all
also
of them.
sexy.
So
I'm an everything queen.
I'm an everything queen.
I'm hilarious and
You're perfect.
beautiful.
You're beautiful. You look like Linda Evangelista.
You know, I wouldn't want to like paint my face like Trixie Mattel. You know, like over the top. Like I'd want to, you know.
See, I'm just starting to experiment with drag makeup. I kind of tried to do like the Trixie-esque, and I kind of like it, but I do have an okay face, so I kind of want to accentuate my natural features a little bit more.
Get your life, PJ.
Like maybe doing a little bit less clown and like white cartoonish kind of look, more like doing like a nice, a nice wing, maybe a good smoky eye kind of.
Right.
But I'll probably still like block like part of my brows out, just so it gives it that more.
Well, I can't wait to see it.
Oh, I also came up with a better drag name.
Oh,
or a new drag name.
Lay it out there.
Anita Margarita.
Wasn't it Martini?
Oh, yeah. Also Anita Martini. Both of them work.
Anita Martini is, I think, better because there's enough T's and eenies.
Or Anita Bump.
Anita Bump. It's kind of like if you were like fat or rotund is what you would name yourself. Anita Bump. It just has like a very, like a very harsh, like when you say I think lump, or
Anita Blunt.
That's pretty good, but it just still has like a harsh sound.
Yeah.
I like the ones that end in the vowel, so you can end in like a, martini.
Anita Martini. Anita Martini.
I like Anita Martini.
I'm a Libra. Anita Martini.
Anita Martini. All right. Are we ready to get into the show?
Let's get started.
Let's fucking do it. All right.
Yo.
So, them some bad bitches.
Them some bad bitches.
All right. So we are going to kind of discuss some of the differences between female and male serial killers, like where the psychology is with that. And we're also going to be talking about 2 main women today. Here on the screen, I have 4 women, but we're going to be talking about 2 of them, and the other 2 will maybe in a part 2 or part 3. Here on the screen, I have on the right, I have Nanny Hazel Doss. And I have Aileen Wuornos. And I would definitely say that Aileen Wuornos is a lot more well-known than Nanny Hazel Doss is. Not a lot of people know about Nanny Doss's crimes.
Yeah.
But I would say that Aileen Wuornos has one of the most highly publicized killing sprees, you could say, that I've ever seen. There was a movie made about her life.
Oh.
Directed by actually the director of Wonder Woman, Patty Jenkins.
Oh, shit.
Starring Charlize Theron, Monster, came out in 2003, won Theron an Oscar for Best Actress.
Wow.
Very highly lauded movie. And now we have Rosemary West on the top left and Myra Hindley, a very infamous mugshot.
Myra Hindley.
Very infamous mugshot of Myra
That could be a
Hindley.
drag name. Myra Hindley.
Myra Hindley.
Myra Henry.
Myra Hindley. It certainly could be. Certainly could be. Now, as viewers will discover, there are quite often noticeable differences in the way that male and female serial killers operate. Let's investigate some of the biggest contrasts.
Okay.
Shall we?
Okay.
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 We'll do so by focusing on the psychological elements specifically. Perhaps the biggest contrast between the 2 sexes when it comes to repeat murders is motivation.
Oh.
Is motivation.
What motivates them?
Well, the single biggest driver for the male serial killers is, why don't you guess what it is? Being males.
Sex?
Exactly, sexual compulsion, because males are fucking disgusting.
That's the truth, Jesus.
Sorry, I hate to say it, but that's, like, it just kind of makes me, cringe a little bit. That's our deal. Really gross. That's not to say that all serial murderers rape their victims.
Yeah, no.
Far from it, you know. Like, some just store the body parts, you know, so they're not all bad. But on some level, there is genuinely a sexual element, even if it is purely psychological. You know, they may not actually, molest them, so to speak, but they may derive just a mental sexual pleasure from it. You know what I mean?
Did you purposely spell bitches wrong?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Okay.
I just thought it would be neat.
Bitches.
But on some level, there is generally a sexual element. Male multiple murderers are often compelled to kill. An innate urge drives them to take the lives of others. Often, the identity of the victim isn't even that important. Compare that to female serial killers, and we can see a polar opposite. When a woman kills, there is usually a reason. There's pragmatism and justification, at least in the killer's mind anyway. So, like, whereas with men, it's just like an urge to do it. It's kind of like an animalistic thing.
Yeah.
With women, they have a reason behind it, or at least in their own heads, they have a reason, you know?
Yeah. It seems like women would be more of the planning type.
Yeah, right?
They usually are.
Men would be the more spontaneous. Of course, you know, there are outliers, and we're actually going to talk about some outliers today. Like, both of our women today kind of stray from the mold a little bit, more so Aileen Wuornos, kind of straying from the mold as far as motives. Now, the reason behind the killings could be money or convenience, benefit from a will, you know. Often it is to get a male spouse or partner out of the way for either money or convenience, again. Or the motive might well be revenge, an act of violence as a catharsis, you know. So, like, say if she was assaulted by somebody, you know, that's some of the motivations that we're about to discuss here.
Motivate me.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah. I can't even be mad. Like, I get it. But, of course, there is a point where they start to use it as an excuse, like, just to kill. Because when you see a pattern of, you know, like, she killed 7 men in self-defense, like...
Self-defense.
How much of that is self-defense and how much of that really is you just kind of snapping?
Unless it was actually self-defense that many times.
Or you could be like Nanny Hazel Doss and you make excuses, but the excuses are just so mundane and just so non-consequential to someone else that you would just think you're insane for thinking to take it to that length for something as minor as we're about to discuss. In the case of Doss, the motive may be revenge. Sometimes a woman will kill a close family member, such as a child, to garner sympathy and attention from friends. That has happened. Like there's a woman, Mary Beth Tinning, who murdered 9 of her children, all mostly as infants. She just got off on the attention that it garnered.
Oof. Oof.
Yeah, I mean, in essence, like she loved it. Yeah, really, really kind of fucked up shit. This is not a motive often seen amongst male killers. In fact, it's exceptionally rare. Male killers don't really kill family members as much, not to gather sympathy or attention anyway.
Yeah.
They probably, most of the time, male killers, whenever it's a family member, is usually like an act of passion.
Yeah.
You know, like a heated argument. That actually happens often. Like, just somebody will get offed in an argument just out of nowhere. Now, let's get down to the brass tacks of this whole thing. The murdering part. How do they differ when they actually murder the bitches?
What?
Male and female. When they murder, what's the difference? In this context, it's where the most fundamental and obvious differences between the sexes exist. On the whole, women serial killers are far more low-key than their male counterparts. Studies looking at the MO of women that kill have found that they're much more likely to kill by poisoning, drowning, or suffocating.
Yeah. The more subtle, more thought-out, meticulous type planning.
But also, it's because men can rely on brute force and strength. You know, like often with men, it's strangulation or just being beaten to death, whereas women will use a weapon like a firearm, or they'll just do it the quiet way. They'll just poison you, and sometimes laugh over you as you're dying slowly.
Yeah, I was about to say the poisoning is the one of the the top method.
Yeah,
according to
poisoning is the preferred method of murder.
The slow and subtle type.
Murder. Oh. Whereas men are happier using brute force and more violent means, such as shooting, stabbing, strangling, bludgeoning, beating to death. A suggested reason behind this could be practicality. Strangling someone or bashing their brain in is a test of strength, an area where men generally have an advantage. Sorry, ladies. But from a psychological viewpoint, it could be seen as though women killers are more inclined towards subtlety and cunning. Often, the more violent to murder, the more evidence is created and the greater chance of getting caught. I mean, honestly, like, if you're going to sit there and just beat someone to death, like, that's a lot of blood, that's a lot of DNA.
Yeah.
That's a lot of mess to clean up.
That's a lot of work.
A lot of loose ends to tie up. You don't have time for that. You're a busy woman.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Exactly. You're a busy woman. You don't have time to fucking deal with that shit. Just poison them, drag their body off somewhere, and just be done with it. Or just poison them, get taken to the hospital. They don't know what's wrong with you. You die. No one asks for an autopsy, and then everything's fine.
Yeah, there we go.
That is something that it has happened.
That's how it works.
Now, research into the differences between the sexes in serial killing have found that male killers are nearly 6 times as likely to kill a stranger, whereas female serial killers are almost twice as likely to kill a person they're already familiar with. Yeah. Like we discussed earlier, men prefer to just, they don't care about the victim. They, in the case of Jeffrey Dahmer, he would just go around, he talked about it in one of his interviews he did with Dateline, I think. When he just looked for the most attractive, didn't matter race, didn't matter nothing. He would just look and, his first 2 victims were white. His third one was, Indian. The next 2 were, Hispanic. He didn't care about race, or he didn't care about, he just wanted them to be attractive.
Yeah.
That was his deal. He just wanted the prettiest man.
The prettiest ones.
And imagine being one of the dudes that the serial killer just looks at and says, nah. It's kind of shitty, right?
Just like, what? Why wouldn't you kill me?
Like,
what's wrong with me?
Wait, hold on. He was murdered that night. I was at that club.
Oh my
I would have
God.
gone home with anybody.
I actually heard from an interview with Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh yeah.
He said that people that have tattoos are less likely to be eaten as well because the ink makes the meat taste bad.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yep.
So,
So save yourself. Save yourself from cannibalism.
Get
Get
some
tattoos.
ink.
Get tattoos.
get some ink. Luckily, I have some ink, so I don't have to worry about Jeffrey Dahmer eating my ass.
Well, you don't have to worry about him eating your ass anyway. I mean, no, you don't have to worry about.
I don't have to worry about what, DJ? You wanna say that again? Just for the record, just go ahead and lay that out there again. What did you say?
Here,
You don't want him to what
Let me
now?
say it with a different inflection. You don't have to worry about him eating your ass.
You still kind of sounds kind of bad.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, it's okay though. I mean,
Bitches.
Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't that bad looking.
Yeah.
Can I just say that?
Can you say that?
Can I?
I think that you can say whatever the fuck you want.
I think he was a charming young fellow, except for all the really
it's
extremely fucked up shit that he did.
It's like saying that
That's
Ted
kind of a deal breaker.
It's like saying that Ted Bundy is hot.
Yeah, like it weirds me out seeing women kind of fawn over him, but at the same time, I mean, no, it is kind of weird actually. It is weird, yeah, to fawn over Ted Bundy. Like, he murdered women brutally. Like, I'm just kind of joking around here, but there are women who are actually like, like in love with Ted Bundy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's dead, so it's not like he's gonna do nothing. But I guess like when Zac Efron played him, like he was all sexy and shit.
Yeah.
Because Zac Efron is just sexy.
Zac Efron is sexy.
It's good casting, at least.
Yeah.
All right, where were we? On top of that, some 65.4% of male serial killers, to one degree or another, stalked their victims before murdering them, compared to just 3.6% of female serial killers.
Oh.
When it's women doing the killing, more often than not, it's her own husband or children who end up as the victims.
Yeah.
But of course, there are always those that go against type. All right, so those are the differences between male and female serial killers. All right, about what you'd expect, right?
Yeah.
Men rely more on brute strength. Women rely more on shit like poisoning or other methods that are just a bit
more sly.
a bit more sly, a bit cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Our first subject today doesn't necessarily break the mold in any way, but she is an interesting case nonetheless. All right. She fits the archetype of the Black Widow style murderer, having a string of husbands that mysteriously disappear or are tragically taken too soon, leaving an inconsolable, helpless woman behind.
Oh.
But
I'm just a helpless.
poor me, my husband.
My husband. You gotta imagine it with that black veil over the face. She's just, and like that mascara running, like, my husband just passed away.
And that husband before him.
Poor me.
Oh, child. But of course, the facade is often cracked when the killer takes it one step too far.
One step too far. When the killer takes it one step too far.
Introducing Nanny Hazel Doss. After 4 days of severe stomach cramps, diarrhea, vomiting, delirium, and a dramatic weight loss of 16 pounds, Sam Doss was admitted to Hillcrest Medical Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, no.
With his polite and cheerful wife at his side, the medical team hoped that Mr. Doss would soon be on the road to recovery.
Oh, doctor, help me. Help my husband, please.
Yet, it took another agonizing 3 weeks for his condition to stabilize.
Oh, no.
By early October 1954, Sam Doss's system had stabilized and he was discharged into the care of his wife. Within 36 hours,
He was dead. Oh, shit.
Sam returned home on October 5th. He was proud of their modest home. They had, Sam and Nanny had only met the previous June in a Lonely Hearts column, and after a whirlwind romance, decided to get married.
Ooh.
Nanny was a rather attractive woman in her youth, and though she was now 49, her infectious laugh and bright eyes could still win over anybody. Sam was hooked. He had finally found someone after many years alone. So it was quite the shock to the neighborhood when, seemingly on the road to a full recovery, Sam staked as a total reversal in a very short amount of time. This instance was the first autopsy ever requested for a husband of Nanny Doss, and it unveiled that Sam's roast dinner was laced with enough arsenic to slay a man 3 times his size.
Damn.
Yeah,
okay,
son.
Miss Thing.
So what is your thinking that she did that shit?
What?
Do you figure she did that shit, or do you think she's innocent?
Well, I mean, I know that she did it.
Well, do we, though? Do we really?
Whatever.
I mean, she did confess, but, still, do we know, though? Maybe she just wants the glory of having killed
Nanny, happily.
Nanny.
I'm just happily
So,
confessing like
what-
it ain't no thing.
What we're looking at here is Nanny Doss just gaily chatting with Harry Steege, one of the investigators at the time. And she just happily confessing like it ain't no thing.
Why, of course I killed my husband. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, a bit like that. When detectives sat down to interrogate Nanny Doss, they were surprised to find laughter coming from her side of the table. She flirted, chuckled, flicked through her magazine. The investigative team, led by Special Agent Ray Page, admitted they had never questioned a subject quite like Nanny. Since her arrest, she had been trying to beguile and cajole the investigators into believing that she could never do such a thing.
Why, of course I would.
Actually-
I would never.
Actually, I have a quote right there for you.
Oh, you do?
She would say,
Gotta put my glasses on.
oh my god, dude, you're so old. You're 21 and you're basically 60. Like, his body aches. He can't see for shit.
Right, where am I reading?
She would say,
Oh, boys, come in now. I killed nobody. Oh,
come in now.
come on.
Come on now.
Oh, come on.
Get it together, PJ.
Let's
And
try that.
action.
Oh, boys, come on now. I killed nobody. I don't know why you think I did.
Nanny knew how to turn on the charm, but the evidence was overwhelming. The officers gathered in Tulsa had taken the first step into uncovering a serial killer that had been systematically murdering family members, not just husbands, for almost 30 years.
Oh, shit. What the fuck?
Yeah, it gets deeper, bro.
Oh, my God.
Let's talk about her childhood. She was quite a looker back in the day. Look at
Oh,
that.
she's very pretty.
She's a very beautiful woman.
That is an old-ass picture.
Dude. Hold on. When was she born? Nanny Doss was born Nancy Hazel on November 4th, 1905. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So she was born a turn of the century just about in Blue Mountain, Alabama, to James and Lou Hazel. Much of her childhood was spent avoiding the wrath of her father, who ruled the family with an iron fist. If his children were needed to work the farm, James Hazel did not hesitate to pull them out of school. So since education was a low priority, she got very poor grades, and she just wasn't highly educated. You know, like, he never really allowed her a chance to succeed. And she actually left school for good after completing the 6th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, boy. Now, when Nanny was 7, the train she was on suddenly stopped, causing her to fall forward and hit her head. After the accident, she suffered for years with migraines, blackouts, depression, until her last day. She blamed much of her mental instability on that incident, on how when she was young she hit her head on the train.
Oh, my God.
What do you think about that?
That
Cop out or reality?
A little bit. I mean,
A little bit of a cop out. Like you hit your head, so you kill all your husbands.
I hit my head.
I hit my head, boys.
just like
I swears it.
Of course I ain't killed no one. I hit my head when I was a baby.
So wait, but if she's saying I didn't kill anyone, and then she's saying I hit my head, what is the purpose of her saying I hit my head? Because I hit my head is an excuse for having killed them, right? So if she says I hit my head, then she's kind of like throwing out an excuse, and that kind of makes her seem guilty when you put it that way, right? Right?
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. I don't really know.
Hey, when you improv, you best be fucking accurate, all right, bitch? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I love you. Yeesh. Oh. All right. Until her last day, she blamed her mental instability on that incident. Fucking weirdo. Now, James Hazel refused. No way, Jose, to dresses and things. No fucking way, bro. Not in my house. Not in my house.
To dresses and things.
Nuh-uh, no dresses, no makeup. Pretty dresses and makeup were never allowed in the Hazel residence. They were never allowed to do anything to enhance their appearance. Neither were friendships with boys. Not having it, okay? No fucking, no boys. No fucking of any kind, all right? It was not until Doss got her first job in 1921, age 16, that she had any social interaction with the opposite sex. When other kids were attending school and worrying about prom night, Doss was working in a linen factory, spending her spare time with her head buried in her favorite pastime, reading romance magazines. So she was a lover of all things romantic, but she never really had an opportunity to, kind of like ease into that life until she was actually on her own. And like she was working by a young age, 16, working in a fucking factory. In 1921, when those conditions were rough too.
Yeah.
Like factory conditions during the Great Depression era.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Great Depression sucked, bro.
Great Depression sucked, bro. PJ 2021. That's a great quote.
The Great Depression sucked, bro.
Dude, you know what? I don't care if my opinions get me in trouble. The Great Depression sucked. And I'm calling it right now. I call it like I sees it, and I don't care who I hurt. All right? I don't care who I offend. Great Depression, not good.
You were going a little Obama at the end there.
Was I?
Yeah.
She is a killer. While working at the factory, Doss met Charlie Braggs, a coworker.
Charlie
Braggs.
Why, I do.
Well, I never.
Charlie Braggs.
Charlie Braggs, a coworker who took care of his unmarried mother. Wow, stand-up guy, Charlie Braggs was. Or maybe not. They began dating, and within 5 months were married. So basically, she had no interaction with the opposite sex, and then just like that, she's married with this guy she met at the factory. If she hoped by marrying to escape the oppressive environment she grew up in, she was disappointed. Her mother-in-law turned out to be extremely controlling and manipulative. The Braggs family had their first child in 1923 when she was 18.
Oh.
Yes, indeed. Followed by 3 more over the next 3 years. Children.
Oh shit, that's
Fuck
a
yeah,
lot
dude.
of kids, bro.
That's a lot of fucking kids, dude. For how young she is.
Yes.
Doss's life.
By 18, how many is that now?
Huh?
How many kids?
Our first child was at 18, and then she had 3 more, so that's 4.
Oh shit.
Yes, indeed. Doss's life became a prison of raising children, taking care of her demanding mother-in-law, and putting up with Charlie Braggs, an abusive and adulterous drunk.
Braggs. Oh.
Yeah.
So he wasn't a stand-up guy.
To cope, she began drinking and going to bars for her own adulterous fun. Their marriage was basically doomed. Doomed from the start. Now we're going to talk about some of the first deaths, okay? In 1927, soon after the birth of their 4th child, the Braggs' 2 middle children died from what the doctors labeled food poisoning. Suspecting that Doss had poisoned them, Braggs, the husband, took off with the oldest child, Melvina, but left the newborn, Florine, and her mother behind.
Oh.
So basically, her 2 middle children die off. Assume, and the doctors just call it food poisoning. Braggs takes off with the oldest kid, but leaves the newborn with Nancy. Doss
damn.
remained in the Braggs' home until a year later, when Charlie returned with Melvina and his new girlfriend. The two divorced. Doss left with her 2 daughters and moved back to her parents' home. Charlie Braggs became the only husband that Nanny didn't murder.
Ooh.
Yes, indeed. So Charlie Braggs makes it out alive.
The one that got away.
Kind of, basically. Yeah, this is it's kind of up in the air about whether or not she killed her 2 children. But it is highly suspected based on her track record. But then again, given her track record, it is interesting that she would kill her children, but then not kill her husband. So you have to think, was it because she didn't want to, or was it because he got away in time? Like, would he have died if he hadn't gotten away?
Well, I mean, since he sounds like such a shitty person, I would have assumed that he probably would have died.
Yeah, it's pretty likely. Alone again, Doss returned to her childhood passions of reading romance magazines, but this time she began corresponding with some of the men who advertised in the Lonely Hearts column.
That was delicious.
Thank you. That's where she met her second husband, Robert Harrelson. Doss, aged 24, and Harrelson, 23, met and married, and they lived with Melvina and Florine in Jacksonville, Alabama. So this guy marries Doss and takes up the kids, so he seems like a pretty stand-up guy.
Okay.
But Doss learned once again she had not married a man with the character of her romance heroes. Harrelson was a seasoned alcoholic, always in debt. His favorite pastime was getting into bar fights and making a fool of himself. They stayed married, though, for another 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, girl, you got to get yourself out of that kind of toxic situation.
She hasn't spent a lot of time single ever in her life, really, once she starts being in relationships. And it is kind of odd, given how short the rest of her relationships are, how this one went for so long.
Yeah.
But in 1945, there was a breaking point. As she later told it, Frank had been out on a huge drinking binge with some friends back home from active service. He eventually arrived back at the family home and demanded that they have sex. Nanny did not consent.
We need to have sex right now.
But did not stop Frank's advances. So basically...
Oh, no. Why?
Babe, she was raped. Poor form, PJ. Poor form. Frank...
Okay, I'm going to kill myself now.
Puts fan down. Let's just put this up for a little bit. Frank had raged that she should, or there would be a good chance that he wouldn't be around next week. And that was the last straw for Nanny. She knew Frank's weaknesses, and for lack of a better term, was tired of his bullshit. She knew that he was a seasoned alcoholic and hid liquor everywhere in the house, even in the garden. She knew where to find the bottle, poured some out, topped it off with rat poison. Within a few hours, he was dead. He was 38.
He was 38.
Yeah.
How old was she
at
this point?
I think she was a year older, so she would have been 39.
39.
Yeah. His passing would have been far from easy, too. Thallium sulfate is the active substance found in commercial rat poison, and ingesting it leads to excruciating skin and joint pain, paralysis, and respiratory failure as it overwhelms the nervous system, all of which Nanny sat and watched.
Okay. Oh my
right,
God.
dude? Right? This is fucking hardcore as shit, dude. Like, I don't know if a movie has been made about this bitch yet.
There should be.
There needs to be a movie about this broad. Like, because goddamn, dude, she's doing some really fucked up shit. I mean, like, she's going through fucked up shit, too. That's the thing. Like, you don't know whether to root against her or root for her.
We were rooting for you.
Maybe not when she's killing children. I'd say that's where I draw the line.
Oh.
Because she has killed children, allegedly. I don't know if she admits
killing
to
her
them,
husbands.
though.
I mean, if they've been... I don't know.
Now we talk about the death of her grandmother. In 1947, at 24, Melvina, that's her daughter, married a man and soon began to have children. Melvina had a son named Robert. During the birth of her daughter, she had a difficult labor. Though when she eventually arrived, she appeared in good health. Nanny was present throughout, and Melvina drifted off to sleep as she watched Nanny rock the newborn. Okay? So Melvina has Robert.
Oh my
Robert's
God.
fine. And then Melvina has her daughter, who does not have a name. There is not a name for her daughter, because when Melvina awoke, her daughter was dead.
Oh my God.
The nursing team could offer no explanation for the sudden death of the infant. Melvina, on the other hand, struggled with a recurring nightmare. Do you know what these are? These are hat pins.
Oh.
Ether had been administered to Melvina during labor, and its effects would have had an impact during the hours that came after delivery. And yet she swore she had groggily awoken to see her mother inserting a large hat pin into the head of her newborn daughter.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Talk about a nightmare, huh? Asking questions of other family members in the hospital afterwards, most confirmed that Nanny had indeed spent some time toying with a hat pin. It can be argued that Melvina was suffering a drug-induced hallucination that is a side effect of ether, but with the inexplicable death of her daughter, doubt would remain. And no autopsy was performed.
Damn, dude.
That's a common theme here, is that autopsies just weren't performed for the deaths.
What? Because they were babies?
But for the husbands, too.
Oh.
Until her fifth husband, just nothing was ever, well, I mean, like, they just fucking wouldn't try as hard as they needed to, I feel. A lot of times deaths just get written off, and it's actually kind of, it's actually a little eerie to think.
Yeah.
That you may be, you could very well be murdered, and it may be just written off like it ain't no thing, depending on how it looks.
That's
less so
crazy.
today, hopefully, but yeah, that's a reality.
It's crazy.
Very crazy. Regardless, Melvina trusted Nanny enough to watch her son while she was away in Jacksonville shortly after. Robert, the one who had a name. Unfortunately, Nanny promptly insured his life for $500. Then Melvina was told that Robert died of a fever.
I died of a fever.
It wasn't until many years later when the boy's body was exhumed and the cause of death was found to be asphyxiation.
Oh my God.
So she's just on a fucking killing spree after killing her second husband. No, okay. Her two original middle children, and then her own grandchildren. Both of them.
Damn, dude.
From her oldest daughter, yes. Now, we're going to talk about the third husband here, Mr. Arlie Lanning.
That picture is very...
Nanny's usually supposed to be all like, jovial and joyful, but right here she just looks like you can see the killer in there.
Yeah.
Figuring it had worked once, Doss returned to the classified ads for her next husband. Within 2 days of meeting each other, Doss and Arlie Lang were married. Like her late husband, Lanning was an alcoholic, but not a violent or adulterous one. This time, it was Doss who would leave the house, sometimes months at a time. In 1950, after 2.5 years of marriage, Lanning became ill and died.
Became
ill. At the time, it was believed he died of a heart attack brought on by the flu. So, see, they just, explain it away with some shit, He showed all the symptoms, though, fever, vomiting, stomach pains. With his history of drinking, doctors believed his body simply succumbed to it, and an autopsy was not performed. Lanning's house was left to his sister. But within 2 weeks, it had burned down before the sister took ownership. So, arson, too, maybe?
Damn.
I'm not saying we're
dude.
blaming her for everything, for every shitty thing that's happening around her, but it is a little peculiar that it would burn down then,
yes.
Lanning's house was left to his sister. It burned down before the sister took ownership. Doss moved in temporarily with her mother-in-law, But when she received an insurance check for the burned house, she took off. So there was a motive. The house was insured by her. And, she probably did that shit too. She probably burned the fucking house down to get the insurance money and then fucking bail. Honestly, she was probably planning that from the start because she already had the insurance policy on the house. She had, some sort of house insurance, homeowners insurance on it. So she killed her husband with those intentions, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And it all could have been, kind of quelled with an autopsy of all things. A relatively easy procedure to do.
Yeah.
Dawes wanted to be with her sister, Dovey, awesome name, I will say, who was dying of cancer. Just before she was to move in with her sister, though, her mother-in-law died in her sleep. Not surprisingly, Dovey soon died too while in Dawes' care.
Oh my god.
Dovey did have cancer, but who even fucking knows at this point? So Lanning's, her husband dies, and then her husband's mother dies. She fucking burns their house down, takes the insurance, goes to move in with her sister, who then dies. For her fourth husband, this is Nanny Doss and Richard Morton's hat, wearing Richard Morton. I figured I would say that because that hat is just wearing him right now. No, he is not wearing that hat, boo. That hat is wearing him.
That hat's wearing him, bitch. He ain't wearing that hat.
That's what I'm fucking saying. Okay. This time, Doss decided that instead of limiting her search for a husband to the classified ads, she would try a singles club. She joined the Diamond Circle Club, where she met her fourth husband, Richard L. Morton.
Circle.
The Diamond Circle. Sounds like my... never mind. Richard L. Morton of Emporia, Kansas. They married in October of 1952 and made their home in Kansas. Unlike her previous husbands, Morton wasn't an alcoholic. All right. That's good. That's awesome. But he did cheat on her. When Doss learned that her new husband was seeing his old girlfriend on the side, he didn't have long to live. Besides, she had already set her sights on a new man from Kansas.
A new man from Kansas.
Named Samuel Doss.
Samuel Doss.
She was an Alabama woman, so she probably did sound like that. At least a little
I
bit.
never.
Like a southern... Well, I mean, she wasn't really like a lady, like a southern lady. Like a lady implies high class, I mean. She was probably, I don't know. She just wasn't very wealthy ever. Unless she was getting them insurance checks, boy.
Oh my god.
So before she could kill Morton, her father does die. And it's not really presumed that she killed him because, he was off in Alabama doing his thing. So her mother visits. Within days, though, her mother's dead, complaining of severe stomach cramps.
Okay.
Husband Morton succumbed to the same fate 3 months later. Why wait? Why wait 3 whole months? Maybe she was playing it smart, playing it cool. It'll look suspicious. My mother dies, and then my husband dies.
Yeah.
This, right after one another.
Yeah, you don't want to do one right after the other.
This bitch is smart about it. Honestly,
you gotta give it some time.
So she had killed her mother and her fourth husband. Yes, boo. Enter Samuel Doss, who we covered in the beginning. He was kind of like the teaser, we kind of started from the end, and now we're and then we started from the beginning. Now we're back. We've looped around. It's like a movie, you see.
Oh shit.
All right, so he was a nice guy, but he kind of had some flaws, and we're about to get into that. After Morton's death,
He's got some flaws.
he's got some flaws.
He's the fixer, but
Honestly, though, this guy was easily the best guy that Nanny got with, because he's actually a genuinely good guy.
Yeah.
After Morton's death, Nanny moved to Oklahoma and soon became Mrs. Samuel Doss. Sam Doss was a Nazarene minister dealing with the death of his wife and 9 of his children who had been killed by a tornado that engulfed Madison County, Arkansas.
Oh my god.
So he has a very tragic backstory.
Damn.
Very fucking tragic. Actually very sad. I
Very
feel for this
sad.
man. Fucking rip, dude. Doss was a good, decent man, unlike the other men in Nanny's life. He was not a drunk, womanizer, or wife abuser. He was a church-going man who fell head over heels for Nanny. Unfortunately for him, Samuel Doss had two other flaws. He was painfully frugal and boring. He led a regimented life and expected the same of his new bride. No romance novels or love stories on television were permitted, and bedtime was at 9:30 every night. He kept tight control of the money and gave very little to his wife. This didn't sit right with Nanny, so she headed for Alabama, returning only after Samuel agreed to sign her to his checking account. Ah, that fucking cold-hearted bitch.
What a cold-hearted fucking.
When the couple reunited and Doss having access to his money, she became the doting wife. She convinced Samuel to take out 2 life insurance policies with her as the only beneficiary.
Oh my god.
Almost before the ink dried, bro, Samuel was in the hospital complaining of stomach problems. Seriously, like, she really has no sense of compassion for these men. And, like, it's almost excusable when it's people who are being abusive, you know? I still wouldn't say murder them, even if they are being abusive. I'm just gonna, say that. But it's almost excusable. But in this case, dude, like, just totally ice cold, man.
Yeah.
Really rough stuff.
It's like she already knew that she could get life insurance policies out of men, so she was like, "All right, you're kind of wealthy.
Easy too.
Take out 2 of them."
It was just like fucking taking candy from a baby, man. So easy back then. So easy. He managed to survive almost 2 weeks, recovering enough to return home. On the first night back, Doss served him a home-cooked meal, and hours later, he was dead. Now, when Special Agent Ray Page pressed her into discussing the circumstances surrounding the deaths of her other husbands, Nanny responded with yet another giggle. And this time I actually have it in italics for you, so you can know what you have to say. But I have some lines for you. Go ahead. She said, basically when questioned,
"Are you saying, young man, that I have killed all my husbands? You're a nice-looking young man, but so foolish."
I picture it as like a witch, but so foolish. You're a nice-looking young man, but so foolish.
Okay.
I mean, but she's not doing it,
"Are you saying, young man, that I've killed all my husbands? You're a nice-looking young man, but so foolish."
Nice. Ray Page's patience had reached a breaking point. Snatching the magazine from Nanny, he raised his voice and told her to end her charade. Basically, stop bullshitting. Am I right? Nanny grew very cold.
Quit bullshitting.
Quit bullshitting, Nanny. We fucking know what's up, bitch. Nanny grew very cold. And... No, just like grow cold, just like stone in the face, just like unreactive, just like, yes, perfect. Just like really tense and eerie all of a sudden. After being all lively and energetic, you just snap and go to that. Like he actually described it as like the light left her eyes for a second.
God.
Right, dude? Nanny grew very cold and without a fight, calmly admitted to poisoning Sam's food. Paige wanted to know why. Her answer was,
"He wouldn't let me watch my favorite programs on the television. And he made me sleep without the fan on the hottest nights. He was a miser. And, well, what's a woman to do under those conditions?"
honestly, Nanny, I totally get it. No, I'm just kidding. Miser means he was cheap. He was, like we said, he was frugal. He wouldn't give her a lot of his money, until she got the money by the account, bitch. On May 17th, 1955, Nanny pled guilty and was sentenced to life imprisonment. Due to her gender, she was spared the death penalty.
Wow.
But otherwise, she would have gotten it. So, female privilege? No? Okay. Damn, tough sub.
Female privilege?
Female privilege?
The fuck is that mean?
I'm just fucking around. She maintained that she was motivated by love rather than money. She died in 1963. She killed up to 11 people.
Goddamn. Goddamn, Nanny. Come on now.
So, what do you make of Miss Nanny Hazel Dawes? Bad bitch?
In a literal sense, yes, she is a bad bitch.
Would you say she's a dangerous dame?
She is definitely a dangerous dame.
I would say she's a dangerous dame.
Keep
Don't
your-
fuck around or play
Keep
any
your
games.
damn kids and keep your husbands away.
Hide
your
your
kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
Fucking literally though, except she didn't rape them. She just
yeah.
she just poisoned them and reveled in their pain, which is honestly super sick to me. Just watching that, like that would be so fucking sick, dude. Watching someone die from arsenic basically like corrodes their insides.
Yeah.
It's fucking really tough stuff. Anyway, this is a very light episode. I just want to talk
Very
about something
light
breezy.
episode.
Something easy, something breezy.
Easy, breezy, beautiful.
Murderous women.
That's nice. Hold on. Easy, breezy, beautiful.
Murderous women.
All right, we're gonna take a break, and we will be back shortly with Aileen Wuornos,
Aileen.
the first female serial killer. Well, at least that's what she was dubbed in the public, because obviously that's not the case, because we just talked about a serial killer that came before Aileen Wuornos. But still, that's what the media said and ran with it, and we're going to talk about her.
All right.
I told you that I only smoke about 5 packs a day. Okay? I don't know why you're such a... Oh, sorry. Hi, guys. If you've never noticed, I always have a cigar in my mouth. And you know why that is. It's because I'm stressed as fuck. The only thing that relieves my stress is the Two Gays Walk in a Bar podcast. So if you didn't already know, it's the best thing in the goddamn world. And if you want something that'll put some hair on your chest, other than a couple packs of cigarettes, you can watch the fucking podcast, alright? Now, mother, I wanted some fucking cupcakes. Now, why didn't you...
Guess who's back in the house? Yeah, we're back, boy. Come on, Aileen. Come on, Aileen.
Come on, Aileen.
Why? Now, Aileen Wuornos has had quite the difficult life. So is Nanny, but Nanny was able to basically, it's what happened. She basically used men to keep her up, to keep her afloat, and when she killed one, she just moved to the next one. Aileen Lee Carol Wuornos was not so lucky.
Not so lucky.
Not so lucky, unfortunately. She was born February 29th, 1956 in Rochester, Michigan. Her father was convicted of child molestation after her birth, and a few years later killed himself in prison. So she didn't grow up with a fatherly figure. Her mother abandoned her and her brother when they were young, leaving them with her parents, Wuornos' grandparents, and their children.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like she's had it pretty rough.
Aileen Wuornos has definitely had it pretty rough. Childhood friends said that Wuornos' grandfather beat her and that her grandmother was an alcoholic. At 11, Wuornos began trading sexual favors for money, beer, and cigarettes. And it is also purported that she slept with her brother a few times also as a child.
Ew.
Yeah. At 11, Wuornos began trading those sexual favors. She had her only child at 14. Neighbors claimed the father was an older adult friend of Wuornos' grandfather.
Our kids are staying away from boys at that age.
It was a friend of her grandfather
Oh my God.
that knocked her up for, really honestly pretty shitty upbringing. That's why a lot of people, when they talk about Aileen Wuornos, they raise up the possibility that she was more of a victim than a murderer. I mean, she was a murderer, but, who is really the victim in all this? And it kind of, the movie Monster really does put that into perspective. We're going to have to watch it
Yes, most definitely. We need to watch it.
It's an Oscar-winning movie. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
It's just I didn't want to expose you to it before I, got through this because it goes over her life pretty well. Some things it changes for the screen, like we're about to see. The lover of Aileen Wuornos was not much of a looker, but she was played by Christina Ricci in the movie.
Yeah.
And you'll see that that's exactly not
Oh my gosh.
exactly not accurate. So just like, but, little things. She had her only child at 14. The child was given up for adoption. Soon after, she began spending more time away from home, either living in the woods or hitchhiking across the country, often under assumed names. She was 14 when her family kicked her out of the house.
She was what?
She was 14.
14?
14 when her family kicked her out of the house. Had her first child, gave it up for adoption, family kicked her out.
Shit.
By the early 1980s, after her brother's death from cancer, Wuornos moved to Florida to work as a prostitute. She was frequently in trouble with the law for being a prostitute and other crimes. By 91, her record included, among other felonies and misdemeanors, arrest for illegal possession of a firearm, forgery, assault, robbery. Her associates and law enforcement personnel often described her as erratic and easily angered. Her arrest records frequently noted attitude poor.
Wow.
So basically, she was just always causing problems, and she never went down easy, ever, when it came to being arrested.
That sucks.
In 1986, I picked some very not flattering pictures. Her actually in the courtroom is the most flattering picture of her. This one on the right is just hilarious. That's her. That's her IMDb profile picture. She has a because she was technically a cast member in the documentary that was made.
What is it? Tyria
Moore.
Tyria Moore.
If it's not Tyria, but I don't think it would be. So she has an IMDb, and this is her profile picture, and that's hilarious.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Just fucking snaggletooth looking motherfucker. And I can say that about her because she's actually kind of a bitch. By 1990, Tyria Moore had become suspicious, if not fully aware, of Wuornos' activities. Moore moved in with her family in Pennsylvania. When Wuornos was arrested on an outstanding warrant in a biker bar in Harbor Oaks, Florida, police tracked Moore down and used her to elicit a confession from Wuornos through taped phone calls. Now, we are going over, that was basically just a quick summary of her life. We're about to go over the crimes and victims that she committed along the way. It basically ended in a 91 for her. That's when she was the last of her arrest, based on a confession that Tyria Moore received through a taped phone call.
Oh.
Her lover of many years. Now, we're going over the crimes and victims. From late 1989 through late 1990, the bodies of 7 middle-aged white men were discovered in Central Florida. The assailant had robbed all of the victims before shooting them to death and stealing their cars. Richard Mallory, the first victim, was a shop owner in 1999, a 51-year-old white man who picked up a prostitute along Interstate 75 in Florida to exchange in sex for pay. A Volusia County deputy discovered his body several miles away from his abandoned car. Mallory had been shot multiple times in the chest.
Okay.
So what?
Bang bang.
Just before
Bang,
we
bang,
just, I'm just gonna kind of rattle through her victims. I'm not really gonna take too much time on it because they all kind of died in the same way. What I'm more interested in is the trial and just how exploited this whole case was. Whereas with Dawes, I focused more on the crimes. This, I'm gonna focus more on the aftermath because with this, it's a little more interesting.
Okay.
But I do want to raise the question: how do you feel about these men being murdered? Because they were up to some pretty shady shit to start with, having hired a prostitute.
Yeah.
And she alleged that that these men had sexually assaulted her.
Oh.
Or were at least about to.
Okay.
That's what she said. She claimed that she slept with some 250,000 men in her prostitution career.
God damn.
That's a number that I don't even know is exactly possible. Like, to me, off the top of my head, that sounds like orgy and night numbers.
Yeah.
Like 250,000? And she wasn't all that old either, you know. She was she was like in her 40s, you know. So a 20-year span as a prostitute, 250,000 people? I don't know.
That's a lot.
But if she's saying 250,000, odds are it was a pretty high fucking number at least, right?
Yeah.
So out of all those men, how likely is it that 7 of them are going to be dicks about it?
Very, very likely.
If they're
I wouldn't be
picking
surprised if most of them were.
if they're picking up a prostitute on the interstate anyway, odds are they're into some
Odds are
shady
they're
shit.
actually probably a piece of shit.
Odds are
so-
they're not all that virtuous. So it just lends the question, like, were they justified? Like, they might not have been, though, is the thing. And we're going to go a little more into that, and it really played a role in her sentencing, just how justified all of these were.
Right.
Next up, the nude body of David Spears. Nude. A 43-year-old construction worker was found June 1st, 1990 in Citrus County. He had been shot 6 times in the torso. See, a very, very similar thing. So Richard Mallory was 89. David Spears was 1990. What you're going to find is that all 7 of these men were killed in the span of a year. So her time as a serial killer was prolific but short.
Yeah.
Because 7's a pretty good number. Good is a relative term, but good for a serial killer. You know, that's a nice high number. Not a lot of serial killers get up there. So that's
In a year.
In a year, no less. So she was knocking him dead, literally. Charles Karskadon, a few days after Spears' body was discovered, the body of Charles Karskadon, 40, was discovered in Pasco County. The part-time rodeo worker had been shot 9 times in the chest and stomach.
Wow.
Troy Burris. Marion County law enforcement found the body of Troy Burris, a 50-year-old salesman, on August 4th, 1990, just a few months after, less than a week after he was reported missing, though the body was fairly decomposed. The medical examiner was able to determine the cause of death was 2 gunshots to the torso.
Fuck.
So, basically her MO, her modus operandi, the way she killed, very consistent. So was Nanny Doss's. Rat poison or asphyxiation.
Yeah.
So, pretty
Any
consistent.
kind of poison. And
that's a common theme among serial killers, is that they are normally consistent. Those that aren't consistent are outliers.
Because, I mean, hey, if it did it the first time, why wouldn't it do it the second,
Precisely.
3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or more
Yeah,
times?
like, basically, they adopt an if it ain't broke, don't fix it attitude, which I can really appreciate in my serial killer. Charles Dick Humphrey, a retired Air Force major, police chief, and Florida child abuse investigator. So, not really a bad dude, just, he hired a prostitute.
Yeah.
Dick Humphreys was found dead in Marion County on September 12, 1990. The body was fully clothed and suffered multiple gunshots to the head and torso. Humphrey's car was later found in Suwannee County.
The head.
Now,
Why the addition of the head?
maybe he was extremely hard going down, Mr. Humphreys. Now, he was old when he was dead. He was already retired, but maybe he put up a fight. Who knows? Maybe she had to go for that headshot.
Yeah.
I don't really know. Now, I really want to ask you, how do you feel about prostitution? Do you feel like Humphreys deserved to die for hiring a prostitute? What level of offensiveness is just the act of getting a prostitute? That's something, because it is the oldest profession, they say.
I mean, but like, I'm not gonna.
And if it's consensual, if it's between two consenting adults,
yeah. If it's consensual, and like, if they're just hiring a prostitute, whatever.
But the thing is that people who are in that situation where they are the prostitute, they're normally it's because they're out of other options, right? People don't normally choose to do that. I feel like people.
I mean, some people just choose to do what they know that they can do best.
But then, like, we can't really look at prostitution negatively and not look at being, like, in porn, for instance, as negative, right? Because are they not the same? Why is porn so accepted but prostitution is not? What is the difference? Because prostitution is behind closed doors where it's private? What exactly, like, that's a fair question, right?
Yeah.
I didn't prepare that. I just kind of thought of it like, like we view those who get prostitutes as being, horrible sinners,
But the thing is that porn actors are usually paid for what they're doing.
well,
like,
so
in
are
both of them,
prostitutes.
but the other person in it isn't paying for it.
I'm just kind of raising the questions, you know? It's
mean-
kind of making me think, like, should prostitution be legal if it is from consenting adults anyway? You know, is it just hypocritical of us to like, porn is just becoming more widely accepted, you know, as a, you know,
I mean, I don't hate.
it's
on,
becoming
I
less
don't-
and less taboo.
I don't hate on sex workers. I mean, you do what you got to do to make money, and if it's something that you enjoy doing, or
I think where people
you're
take
good at.
issue, I think where people take issue is that prostitutes are normally often in a situation where they wouldn't be doing it if they didn't have to, you know, and it feels exploitative to give for those services. It is kind of exploitative because in the case of Mrs. Wuornos here, she really did have no other options. It was all she knew.
yeah.
So is that exploitative of these men? In this instance, yes. It's kind of a...
I mean, if you look at it as just like a job, like it's just what they do for their career, you can't really
if prostitution is so bad, is sex bad?
prostitution isn't bad.
I guess we're pro prostitution.
I'm pro sex workers.
Do you think it should be legal? Because it's pretty illegal everywhere, I'm pretty sure. At least
Yeah,
in
I
the
mean,
States.
if like
I would say so.
if stripping and
Just like I think drugs and the selling of drugs should be legal, you know. I think it would take a lot of crime off the streets because people are going to do it anyway. I'm not saying that's a good way to rationalize changing any law. It's just like, oh, people are just going to do it anyway. But, you know, like, we could take that and actually put it towards the economy, much like drugs. Get a lot of crime off the street and start actually regulating it and putting a focus on, you know, healing. You know, like, instead of taking a first-time drug offender and putting it into prison and making him into a hardened criminal, why don't we make drugs legal and take the crime off the streets and focus on rehabilitation so he doesn't have to fear repercussions for trying to seek help?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, there is like a kind of thing like with Dr. Payson.
Confidentiality?
Confidentiality.
There you
Yes.
go. Fuck yeah.
Because, like, if you go to the doctor or go to the hospital for being in an overdose and you have to get, like, your stomach pumped or whatever, they're not going to call the police because you have drugs in your system.
Yeah.
Because it's confidential. Like, I knew someone that overdosed or was found passed out on the side of the road on drugs, went to the hospital, and then was just released the next day.
Yeah?
Not really the next day per se, but...
Interesting. Well, I still think all drugs should be legal.
Yes.
Fuck yeah. And not just because I want to do them. But I just think it kind of relates to prostitution. Why not legalize it and regulate it instead of making it so, you know, because...
Legalize it and regulate
Of course it happens. Of course it does. Like, it's no secret. Whatever. I don't know. Just an interesting thought. So that was Charles Humphrey. Peter Sims. 65-year-old Peter Sims left Central Florida and headed for New Jersey in June of 1990. His car was found in Orange County Springs on July 4th, 1990. Though Sims' body was never found, witnesses described 2 women near the car in Orange Springs.
Oh my God.
Okay, last one. Walter Antonio, the partially disrobed body of Walter Antonio, 62, was found November 19th, 1990 in a remote part of Dixie County. He had been shot 4 times in the back and head. Antonio's hair was found 5 days... Oh, sorry, car. I said hair. Somebody fucking crazy just found his scalp in a different county, dude. I mean, I wouldn't exactly put it past her because she was kind of unhinged, but... I don't know. That'd be neat. His car was found 5 days later in a different county. Now we get to the juicy part. We're going to get to the trial. And I'm going to kind of explain a little bit about the trial now, all right? In Florida, a defendant convicted of murder can be punished by death if the murder is found to have been committed under certain circumstances listed in the Florida Penal Code, such as murder of a police officer or firefighter, of a defendant that murdered 2 or more victims, in which case she did, or that the defendant committed a murder for hire, or that the defendant was intentionally committed in the course of a kidnapping, burglary, robbery, rape, or other statutorily specified felony. The subclass of murders falling into these categories is called a capital murder. Okay, a capital murder, one that you can be charged with death for.
Can we just talk about the drama in this picture?
It honestly is a very dramatic picture. That's why it was used as the cover for the documentaries that were made about Wuornos while she was going through the process.
She got the handcuffs so close together, and she's just...
Well, she has to have the handcuffs that close together.
I know.
Yeah, oh yeah. But this is the cover for The Selling of a Serial Killer, Nick Broomfield's documentary that was going on while she was going through the initial round of trials. And then later it was The Making of a Murderer, I think was the second one. But we'll talk more about that. Wuornos was charged with the first-degree murder of Richard Mallory, armed robbery with a firearm or deadly weapon, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Prosecutors argued Wuornos qualified for the death penalty based on the charge of murder committed in the course of a robbery. This was the only murder charge that Wuornos went to trial with. The other murder charges ended with guilty or no contest pleas, but we're going to get into that later. First, jury selection in capital cases requires that prospective jurors be death qualified, meaning that they're questioned about their ability to consider both aggravating and mitigating evidence and to render a death sentence in an appropriate case. We're going to play some of the conversation that Tyria, Eileen's lover, had with her over the phone. It was several confession tapes, and we're going to play a few of them.
I met her in a bar.
The police had found Tyria in Ohio, where she agreed to set up her lover to confess.
We were sitting...
Do what you gotta do, okay? I'm gonna have to because I'm like gonna go to jail for something that you did. This isn't fair. My family is a nervous wreck up there. My mom has been calling me all the time. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. Okay. Do what you gotta do, okay? Alrighty. What? I'm not gonna let you go to jail. You evidently don't love me anymore. You don't trust me or anything. I mean, you're going to let me get in trouble for something that I didn't do? I said I'm not. Listen, quit crying. Listen. I can't help it. I'm scared shitless. I know. I love you a lot. I don't know whether I should keep on living or if I should... No, Ty, listen. What if they don't believe me? Tyra, listen. What? I'm not going to let you go to jail or anything. Listen, if I have to confess, I will. Okay. Yes. Why the hell did you do this? Why did you do this? I don't know. Listen, Ty. What? I'll probably never be able to see you. You know that? Yes. I love you. If I have to confess everything just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will. Okay. So don't worry, okay? Okay. I love you. No. Well, do it now. Get it over with. Right this very moment? Yes. Get it over with. All right. Okay? Okay. You can call me back later. All right. All right. Okay, bye.
What we just heard was from the documentary Selling of a Serial Killer, and it was... They were in the courtroom. Aileen was listening the whole time, obviously very emotional just listening to it, and emotional in the call itself, just hearing back her very candid feelings and emotions about facing this, and Tyria just kind of calming her down, telling her that it's going to be all right, she's not going to let her go to prison, you know, basically straight up lying to her.
Oh my God.
And Aileen had to sit there and stare her right in the head. Right in the face, right on the head, right? What? All right. And Tyria stared right back, just looked right back at Aileen and just just sold her out, basically.
Oh my
And
God.
sold her out in more ways than one we're going to discuss later.
Oof.
It'll make your blood boil for sure. The prosecutor's case now, people, all right? This is important shit. The prosecutors based their case mainly on the videotaped confession Aileen Wuornos, sorry. Aileen Wuornos. On the videotaped confession that Aileen Wuornos gave to detectives during interrogation, the prosecution was able to introduce evidence related to Wuornos' other murder charges based on a Florida law known as the Williams Rule, which allows evidence related to collateral crimes to be admitted if it helps show motive, intent, knowledge, MO, or lack of mistake. So basically, they were able to really bolster up that prosecution. Prosecutors dismissed Wuornos' initial claims that all 7 murders were in self-defense by pointing out that Wuornos' story varied with each subsequent telling. Not smart. In the earliest confession to officers, Wuornos said that Mallory, her first murder, picked her up while she was hitchhiking, and they later went into a secluded wooded area to engage in the act of prostitution.
Oh my God.
She and Mallory then began to argue. Wuornos said she felt Mallory was going to roll her, meaning take her money, and rape her. She grabbed a bag in which she kept a gun, and the two began to struggle over the bag. Wuornos prevailed, pointed the gun at Mallory, and said, "You son of a bitch, I knew you were going to rape me," to which Mallory responded, "No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't." At this point, Wuornos shot Mallory at least once while he was sitting behind the steering wheel.
Oh my God. What?
If it's behind the steering wheel, kind of hard to rape someone when you're behind the steering wheel, right?
A little bit.
Like, I picture this, I like, the way she describes it, it's pictured as the back seat of the car. But then when she drops that steering wheel bit of information, it's like, what? Well, hold on.
Yeah, if he was behind the steering wheel, then it would be
Unless he
kinda-
actually, I mean, who knows? But that is just what she told the investigators, and they weren't buying it from the jump. At this point, Wuornos shot him while he was behind the steering wheel. Mallory crawled out the driver's side, shut the car door. Wuornos said she ran around to the front and shot Mallory again, causing him to fall to the ground. While he was lying there, Wuornos shot him twice more, went through his pockets, concealed the body beneath a piece of rug, and drove off in his car. Wuornos also...
That sounds like some GTA type shit.
Yeah, it's basically exactly like GTA. She would just roll up, kill him, drive off in their ride, just take what they had on them, and then that was it. Wuornos also told law officers she had given Tyria Moore inconsistent versions about what happened. In one, Wuornos told Moore she'd found a dead body hidden under a scrap of rug in the woods, but in another, she confessed to the killing. So, like, her story is all over the place, with the various people that she's talking to. In her initial tape confession, Wuornos never mentioned Richard Mallory had raped her. During the confession, it appeared Wuornos was not focused on clearing herself so much as clearing her lover, Moore. Moore had cooperated with the police to convince Wuornos that Moore was going to be prosecuted unless Wuornos fully cooperated. Many believed Wuornos appeared confident and not at all upset during her confession. She made easy conversation with her interrogators and repeatedly told her public defender to be quiet. She said, "I took a life. I am willing to give up my life because I killed people. I deserve to die." So from the jump, she is mentally unhinged. She is really not in a state to defend herself as much as she is to defend her lover Moore, who handed her off like it was nothing. The defense's case. Here we go. During the making of Nick Broomfield's Aileen Wuornos, The Selling of a Serial Killer, Glazer, I hardly know her, seemed more keen to sell music to Broomfield's camera than in the trial. Richard Glazer is her public defender. That's her lawyer right there. Right there. And this is a frame from Selling of a Serial Killer in which he is just rocking his guitar, smiling like it ain't no thing. It was apparent to everybody. He was more interested in how much money the story could make and about, showing his music off. The defense argued Wuornos' statements and the videotaped confession were obtained involuntarily and in violation of her right to due process, despite the fact she was advised of her Miranda rights and provided with a public defender who advised her to not make any lengthy statements. Law enforcement's exploitation of her relationship with Moore in obtaining the confession so impaired her mental state and level of functioning that she did not have a rational understanding of her rights and her advice of counsel. The trial court rejected this argument and denied the defense motion to suppress the videotaped confession. They were like, nah, this is applicable to this case. Moreover, the videotaped confession had already leaked to the media, further influencing the public's perception of Wuornos. During later interviews with police, Wuornos went into detail about her self-defense claim. This is her story, okay? She's about to perform prostitution. They go, drink, smoke some weed, and talk. Wuornos describes herself as drunk royal, whatever that really means. It's really not exactly sure, like, what exactly did she mean by that? Like, I'm a drunk royal. She said a lot of things that were a little, as we will later see. She's definitely said a lot of weird stuff. Around 5 a.m., Wuornos disrobed to perform the act of prostitution. She asked Mallory to remove his clothes, but he said he only wanted to unzip his pants and didn't have enough money to pay her fee. Wuornos went to retrieve her clothes, but Mallory whipped a cord around her neck and threatened to kill her like the other sluts I've done, he said, and tied her hands to the steering wheel. And that is her later version. According to Wuornos' later version, she was violently raped by Mallory and took pleasure from cries for pain. That was the final version of what she said. Mallory eventually untied her, told her to lie down. Believing he intended to kill her, she began to struggle. Mallory told her, "You're dead, bitch. You're dead." At this point, Wuornos found her purse, removed her gun. Mallory grabbed her hand, and the two began fighting for the gun. Wuornos prevailed and shot Mallory. Mallory kept coming at her despite her warnings, so she shot him twice more. So if that is the chain of events of what happened, then I think she was well within her
rights,
right for the Richard Mallory instance. Who knows about the 6 other ones?
Yeah.
But according to that version of events, I would say justified.
That one, yes. If
If
that
true,
was
justified.
true, then it was definitely justified.
Now, against her attorney's wishes, Wuornos testified at trial. A defendant has a constitutional right to not testify, okay? And the prosecution cannot call her to the stand. However, once the defendant testifies, any refusal to answer questions can be held against her by the court and jury.
Mm-hmm.
So she decides to go up there against the attorney's wishes. She really did not make a lot of good decisions during this trial. During her testimony, she repeated her claim of self-defense. During cross-examination, she became agitated and angry, as we talked about earlier when she would be arrested. That was a common theme, so that's not hard to believe. Her attorneys repeatedly asked her to not answer questions, and she evoked her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination 25 times. She was the only defense witness. No one else went up on that stand to defend her, only prosecute, only testify against her.
Wow.
Wuornos' defense also raised an issue that soon after her arrest, 3 detectives on the case, as well as Tyria Moore, talked to the media to sell their story. Some people suspected that deals influenced the witnesses to exaggerate their stories for more lucrative offers. So part of Wuornos' defense was that people were talking to the media and getting money out of it. The verdict? The jury found Wuornos guilty on all counts, including first-degree murder and armed robbery, after less than 2 hours of deliberation. An angry Wuornos shouted, "Sons of bitches, I was raped. I hope you get raped, scumbags of America." This outburst likely was fresh in the jurors' minds as they began the sentencing phase the next day.
Ooh.
And the sentencing was life or death. After Aileen Wuornos was found guilty of the murder of Richard Mallory, a penalty trial was held for the same jury to determine whether she would be sentenced to death or life in prison. In most states, At this penalty trial, the jury chooses between death and life imprisonment by deciding whether the case involves certain statutorily specified aggravating circumstances, or basically they're facts that make the crime more serious or the defendant more deserving of death. And pretty subjective, right?
Yeah.
I would say pretty subjective. The penalty phase for Aileen Wuornos' trial began on January 28th, 1992. So now we're going to talk about reasons for sentencing Wuornos to death.
To death.
To death.
Sentencing to death.
What do you think, PJ? What do you think deserves to happen to Aileen Wuornos?
At this point,
She's killed 7 men. She claims it was in self-defense.
she claimed. Well, technically, she's only claimed the first one as
Because that's what
self-defense.
she's being tried with.
Oh, okay.
She's only being charged right now for the murder of Richard Mallory. This is what the trial is over, is the murder, and she's still facing a life sentence here. What do you think? If you were a juror on this jury, what would you think? Life in prison or death?
Well, on the side of it being self-defense, I believe that she still murdered him. She still killed him, so...
How keen are you on the death penalty for starters? You know, like how readily would you be willing to put someone to death? I can't really see you doing that just like it ain't no thing. Right?
No.
No, it's kind of
It
like
has to be, like, really, really bad. Like, I don't think that she deserves to die.
Yeah, no.
No.
I would say that this was more warranted of life in prison, because I've seen some more heinous crimes.
Yeah,
that
have gotten off.
Get really, or if not scot-free, they were at least, charged and like a punishment was dealt out, but the punishment was just so not, befitting to the crime.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell? Okay, so the state's expert psychologist, Dr. Bernard, testified that Aileen Wuornos suffered from both borderline personality disorder as well as antisocial personality disorder. Although he agreed with other experts that Wuornos experienced impaired capacity and mental disturbance at the time of the crime, he concluded the impairment was not substantial and the disturbance was not extreme. In response to the introduction of evidence of Wuornos' difficult childhood and upbringing, the state called 2 witnesses from her childhood, Lori Grody and Barry Wuornos. Barry Wuornos testified Wuornos' grandfather laid down rules and was someone to look up to. Although he had never seen his father beat Aileen, she was sometimes spanked, and she was 10 when the discipline started to become more tight. Barry testified that Eileen's biological father, who committed suicide in prison, was an abusive and a criminal type.
Yeah.
Honestly, so it was somewhat just in the family to be a little fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, not an uncommon thing.
You can't just blame it on that, though. Like,
serial killers do often come from families when you wouldn't expect. This one was, like, as she said, a quote of Aileen Wuornos is that she became evil due to circumstance. Like, there's evil in everyone. Mine just came out due to circumstance. And I could see that that's a good point. That is a fair point.
Yeah.
Now, reasons for sparing Wuornos' life, because there were some. In the penalty phase, the defense introduced evidence about Wuornos' background. Her teenage parents separated months before she was born. Her father, Leo Pittman, moved on to serve time in Kansas and Michigan mental hospitals and later committed suicide in prison while he was serving time for child molestation and kidnapping.
Good.
Wow. Eileen's teenage mother, Diane Wuornos, described her and her older brother Keith as crying, unhappy babies. Diane's troubled parents adopted Aileen and Keith after she abandoned them. Wuornos' life with her grandparents was physically and verbally abusive. At 6, she suffered facial burns and scarring when she and Keith set fires with lighter fluid. So she was not very well looked after. She was verbally, physically abused. She was allowed to just prance around and set fire to shit, and like she got hurt. She got sexually, You know, she got sexually used, as we discussed earlier, from like she was impregnated by a friend of her grandfather's, probably with her grandfather knowing, honestly.
Probably.
During junior high, Wuornos began exhibiting hearing loss, vision problems, and trouble in school. Her IQ was established at 81 in the low, dull, normal range. An IQ at or below 70 is generally considered indicating of mental retardation. So, not smart. Just flat out, not a high IQ. Maybe she had street smarts. Maybe she did have street smarts. Because her arrest was actually videotaped. There's surveillance footage and cop car footage of her arrest, and when she was arrested for an outstanding warrant outside of this bar, this guy that she was with was actually undercover and was working for the cops and was trying to get a confession out of her. And like they're sitting next to each other in the cop car because he was arrested too, you know, as you know, being undercover. And he was like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then Eileen's like, "I don't know. You're probably a fucking undercover cop or some shit." And then like his acting was pretty shitty. He was like, "What are you talking about?" You know?
Oh my god.
So like she had street smarts for sure. Like
she was like, "Nah, bitch, you're fake."
She had been through the ringer enough to tell like when something was up. So, but I would say unintelligent.
Yeah.
Point blank, you know, she didn't go through schooling and, you know, she had a low IQ. I'm sorry. Them's the breaks, all right? School officials urged that Wuornos receive counseling and try to improve her behavior by administering a mild tranquilizer. Yeah, right. At about 14, Wuornos was raped by her grandfather's adult friend. She waited 6 months before revealing she was pregnant, for which her grandparents blamed her. Her grandfather later sent her away and forced her to give up the child for adoption. After her grandmother died, her alcoholic grandfather threatened to kill her and her brother if they weren't removed from his house. At age 15, she became a ward of the court. She soon dropped out of school and began engaging in prostitution as well as alcohol and drug abuse. Her brother died of cancer at 21. Her grandfather committed suicide. Father and grandfather both offed themselves.
Damn.
Probably for the best because they were both really shitty people.
Yep.
Man, like... Talk about dysfunctional, huh? That don't even begin to cover it, boy.
Talk about dysfunctional.
Wow.
Am I right?
Talk about dysfunctional. Am I right, folks?
Am I right?
Wow. Oh, my gosh. 3 defense psychologists concluded Wuornos suffered from borderline personality disorder at the time of her crime, resulting in extreme mental or emotional disturbance. They said her ability to conform her conduct to the law was substantially impaired, and she exhibited evidence of brain damage. One testified her inconsistent confessions should not be considered lying or changing stories in a subjective sense because of her borderline personality disorder. The defense attempted to portray her as a woman who had lived a horrible life of victimization and violence with little help from anyone, and who later lashed out at one of her victimizers. Defense attorney Jenkins referred to her client as a damaged, primitive child and pleaded with the jury to spare Wuornos' life. Now, the jury's penalty recommendation. Are you ready?
Yes.
The jury recommended the death sentence by a vote of 12-0.
Really?
Yes. Concluding, well, I think it has to be to 0 for death. Have you seen 12 Angry Men?
No.
Oh my God, it's a wonderful, wonderful film. It's about these 12 men. They are in a juror's room. Most of the film takes place in this one small little room where they are deciding whether or not they're going to put this 18-year-old kid to death. And it starts out as a vote of 11-1. Because there's just one person amongst them that just says no because he has a reasonable doubt. And this movie came out in, I think, the 50s. It's in black and white. It's a really old movie, but I would say it's literally perfect. there is this one long shot in the beginning of 12 Angry Men where it just goes from juror to juror. It just hangs around a little bit at clumps of them having a conversation, and in the most glorious way I could have ever imagined, they just introduce each character and what they're about so perfectly in just like a few minutes. And then next thing you know, they're all sitting down, and then like just visually, it's a very technically very well made movie for sure. But yeah, one man amongst them just has the gall to say, I don't know, is it? And
like I haven't been convinced otherwise yet.
It's a fantastic movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I would say it's one of top 5.
We definitely got to watch it then.
I would say it's top 5 favorite movies.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it is up there. Which may be like a good episode for us to do, just like our favorite movies, just talking about them, maybe like in a list format. I don't know.
Yes,
or just like something in that capacity. But yeah, concluding that 5 aggravating circumstances and only 1 mitigating factor were present in Wuornos' case. The 5 aggravating circumstances found were that Wuornos had a previous felony conviction involving the use or threat of violence. Okay. Murder was committed during the commission of a robbery. Okay. So she did take his shit after she killed him. Murder was committed in order to avoid arrest. They found that that was one also. I mean, which also could have been because she was committing an illegal act being a prostitute. Murder was heinous, atrocious, or cruel. That is subjective, but they ruled it as such. And murder was cold, calculated, and premeditated. So they are basically just taking her testimony that it was in self-defense, she was trying to rape me. They're just taking it and chucking it right out the window by saying, no, that is not what happened. You planned this. The trial jury found 1 mitigating factor, that she did suffer from borderline personality disorder. The jury decided that despite her psychological difficulties, though, she knew the difference between right or wrong. The judge found the following non-statutory mitigators. 1, that she suffered antisocial borderline personality disorders like we discussed. 2, that she had been physically abused as a child. 3, her natural father and grandfather committed suicide. That is very traumatic. 4, her grandfather died an alcoholic. 5, her mother abandoned her as an infant. The judge followed the jury's recommendation of death and sentenced Wuornos to death by electric chair on January 1st, 1992.
January 31st.
Sorry. January 31st, 1992, sentenced to death by electric chair. Now, we'll find out that might not be exactly as it happened, but we're going to talk a little bit about the post-trial, okay? Now, this will likely make your blood boil, just to let you know here. After the trial, it was revealed that Tyria Moore made several book and movie deals selling her story. Yeah. So did 3 detectives on the case who later resigned. In their defense, the officers maintained that they were moved to sell their version of the case by pure intentions, planning to put the money in a victim's fund. Yeah, that's what they all say.
What the fuck ever.
What the fuck ever, bro? Yeah, only when you were called out. Fucking as if. Fucking, why else would you resign, bitch? Fucking get real. They later denounced the exposure of their scheme at all as malicious work by their brother officers, driven by their jealousy at being cut out of the deal. So they fucking claimed that, they did it with pure intentions. It's just my fellow fucking cops next to me, they sold me out because they were jealous, homie. What? I don't understand. What? In November 1992, okay, this may actually trigger you, all right? In November 1992, Dateline NBC reporter Michelle Gillen, a fucking news reporter, discovered Mallory had served 10 years in prison for violent rape in another state. And they told her story was bullshit. And like a fucking reporter found this. They could have, okay, man, I'm sorry. I'm getting heated over it. Detectives had previously denied any evidence existed to corroborate Wuornos' claim of rape or of history of sexual crimes by Mallory. Had detectives searched federal crime records to check into claims that Mallory was violent, they would have produced this history. However, the judge refused to allow this to be admitted in post-trial proceedings, and Wuornos was never given a retrial. After further evidence was submitted, she wasn't allowed. And that's something that can happen. Retrials can happen. But the judge was like, no, I ain't buying it, dude. After the trial, Wuornos was legally adopted by her new friend, Aileen Prale. Legally adopted. Well, because she is kind of on the duller side of intelligence. She's mentally unstable. Legally adopted. That's cool. After Prale had a dream in which she was told to take care of Wuornos. That was her purported motive behind doing what she did. Sounds like a great friend. According to Prale, Jesus told her to write to Wuornos, and she did. What Wuornos did not know was that Prale was receiving money for giving interviews, including one with Nick Broomfield, who paid her $10,000. Part of the money went to Wuornos' new lawyer, Stephen Glazer, whom Prale hired. Assistant Public Defender Trisha Jenkins, whose office handled Wuornos' Volusia County trial, accused Glazer of mishandling Wuornos' subsequent cases and appeals. Jenkins testified that Glazer never picked up the discovery files from that case, even as he prepared the case in Marion County. Instead, Glazer filed a notice that he was taking over the case and a motion to change Wuornos' original not guilty plea to no contest on the same day. A quote by Jenkins, "He told me he was taking the case because he needed the media exposure." On March 31st, 1992, Wuornos pleaded no contest to the murders of Dick Humphrey, Troy Burris, David Spears, saying she wanted to get right with God. The relationship between Wuornos and Prale was not to last. Wuornos began to suspect that Prale was only there for the publicity and the money. Wuornos told Broomfield in an interview that Prale and Glazer were telling her ways to kill herself in prison.
Oh my God.
She suspected they advised the no contest plea because Glazer was too inexperienced to handle a multiple murder trial. So he just decided to not even try. He took the case for the attention and then just didn't even try in the case. Just said, just plead no contest. That's it. Same day, no thinking about it, no nothing.
Those of you that are listening, you can't see how like genuinely upset my face is.
PJ looks kind of pissed at this whole turn of events, to be honest with you, and I'm right there with you. It's crazy.
It's redonkulous.
It's redonk. In June 1992, defeated by the loss of her once trusted friend Prale, Wuornos pleaded guilty to the murder of Charles Carskadon and received her 5th death sentence. In February 93, she pleaded guilty to the murder of Walter Antonio and was again sentenced to death. During her plea to the court, she held to her statement that Mallory had raped her. In a rambling statement, she said, "I wanted to confess to you that Richard Mallory did violently rape me, as I've told you, but these others did not. They only began to start to." On May 15th, 93, Judge Thomas Waya rendered 3 more death sentences. She turned to the Assistant State Attorney Rick Ridgway, and actually, I'm going to just play what she said.
Oh.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Waya was obviously aware of, as he carefully questioned Wuornos about her decision.
I have made peace with my Lord, and I have asked forgiveness. I am sorry that my acts of self-defense ended up in court like this, but I take full responsibility for my actions. It was them or me. I am sorry for all the pain that my actions have caused. I am prepared to die if you say it is necessary. But I am not afraid.
By pleading guilty, it appeared that Lee Wuornos was in reality hoping for mercy and forgiveness, but that is not what happened.
I sentence you in case number 91-463 to death for the murder of Troy Burris. Case number 91-304, I sentence you to death for the murder of Charles Humphreys. Case number 91-112, Citrus County case number, I sentence you to death for the murder of David Spears.
Thank you. And probably see, I'll be up in heaven while y'all are rotting in hell.
We will handle that.
Raped in the ass one of these days.
Okay, there will be an automatic appeal. You have the right to an appeal. Mr. Glazer, is that going to be handled by you or the
Your
public
wife and
defender?
kids get raped.
I would ask that you would
Right
appoint
in
the
the
public defender's
ass.
office.
Okay, I'll appoint the public defender's office to handle the appeal. There's one other thing that I want to say that I think needs to be said.
I know I was raped, and you weren't nothing but a bunch of scum.
Therefore, these proceedings are now
Putting
concluded.
somebody who was raped to death, motherfucker.
That was her reaction. And Can't say I blame her. Now, the next video, it's 7 minutes long. I'm not going to play the whole thing. It is an interview that takes place the day before her execution. So you saw how she was here. She was just finally sentenced to death, okay? And what we're seeing now is just the jump in... let me just show you.
Oof.
There's a massive shift in look, definitely.
Damn, girl.
Yeah, so I'm just going to play it a little bit from the beginning, and I'm going to skip ahead and just play the end for you. One day, October 8th, 2002, one day before
I'm just
that.
wondering how you're going to be, at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Are you prepared?
I'm prepared. I'm all right. I'm all right with it.
And how...
I'm all right with it, but like I said, remember, let them know that I know that the cops knew who I was. After Richard Mallory died, I left prints everywhere, and they covered it up. And let me kill the rest of those guys to turn me into a serial killer. I know they did, because I was no professional serial killer or anything, murderer, or whatever you want to call it, I wasn't professional at what I was doing.
Eileen,
I did some sloppy work, and I left
How
prints.
have you prepared yourself for tomorrow morning?
I'm all right with it. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Hey, I was tortured at BCI. They had the intercom on in the room, and they kept lying that it wasn't on, and they were using sonic pressure on my head since 1997.
Sonic pressure?
And every time I was trying to write something, I think they had some kind of eye in the cell, I'm not sure, but every time I started writing something, it went up higher. So I'm thinking that probably had the TV rigged. The TV...
So, clearly signs of delusion.
Yeah.
She says she's all right with it. She has, at this point, she has confessed to everything. She's not even, trying to deny it, and she has come to terms with it.
Well, if you've been sentenced to death, you can't really deny it anymore,
If I didn't do it, I would maintain until the very end that I didn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
But if he did do it, then just fucking complain. Just don't be,
Exactly.
I'm going to skip ahead just a minute before it wraps up here.
You're all gonna get nuked. You don't take fucking human life like this and just sabotage and rip it apart like Jesus on the cross and say thanks a lot for all the fucking money I made off of you. And not care about a human being and the truth being told. Now I know what Jesus was going through. They've been trying to tell the truth, and I keep getting it stepped on. Concerned about if I was raped, I'm not giving you book and movie info. I'm giving you info for investigations and stuff, and that's it. We're going to have to cut this interview, Nick. I'm not going to go into any more detail. I'm leaving. I'm glad. Thanks a lot, society, for railroading my ass. Okay, let's go.
Basically saying, thanks a lot, society, for railroading my ass. Now, it is a little, it is a little unfortunate because she is, she does have a point when she says, like...
She was a victim.
When she mentions all the money that they made off of her, all the movies and books and whatever else,
They really screwed her over with that.
But there are some maybe delusions of grandeur with comparing herself to Jesus.
Yeah.
But she did say that, she felt like she was going to go to Jesus. Like she described her afterlife as her going to heaven.
I mean, she told everybody in the courtroom, enjoy rotten hell while I go to heaven and live with God,
That's right. That's absolutely right. On October 9th, 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection at the Florida State Prison. In her last statement, she said, this was her last words, "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus June 6th. Like the movie, big mothership and all, I'll be back." She referenced the movie Independence Day in her final statement, which is pretty epic.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Oh my goodness.
Just saying that I'll be back. I'll be sailing with the mothership. She was pronounced dead at 9:47 a.m. Aileen Wuornos was the 10th woman to be executed in the U.S. since 1976, and the second woman ever executed in Florida. So that was Aileen Wuornos. It really is quite something looking at her life. You have to think, how justified was it? How justified were her actions, one, and how justified was the sentencing? And also just how shady and manipulative and exploitative the whole thing was. Truly, truly exploitative. Her attorney, her lovers, friends, family, everyone just... I mean, like, she was the only defense witness.
Yeah.
Like, that tells you all you need to know. But at the same time, she still did the heinous shit. She admitted to it. She shot 7 men. Like, where do we exactly...
But if it was in self-defense, though...
But what if it wasn't? Like, all 7 men...
It's pretty much like a what if, because nobody knows if it's actually true.
Also, I really question the validity when you begin to think of, like, how... within, like, the short amount of time that, you know, all the killings were. Within the span of a year, all of a sudden, all these people are, you know, you're now starting to get sexually abused, and now you're starting to do something about it.
Well, working in, like...
But maybe that was the case. Maybe that she had just, you know, taken it for so long. She's just like, you know what, fuck this. I'm not going to take this anymore. And maybe that was it.
I was going to say,
Maybe
working
Richard
in
Mallory
that
was
kind
the
of
straw
thing.
kind of thing that broke the camel's back for her.
Hmm.
And then she just fucking went buck wild on any man that tried to pull some shit. Maybe that's what happened.
Yeah.
Or
she was just fed up and tired, because, I mean, if she had, you know, working in the, you know, prostitution area, I guess you can call it.
Yeah, maybe she was mentally unstable. It did say that she abused drugs and alcohol a lot. That'll alter your mental state if you abuse them, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, it'll impair you. And in her own testimony, she said that she had, well, one, smoked weed. That's not gonna make you kill anybody. Let me just get that out there. But she had drank some. Maybe she just left out the part that she drank several bottles of wine. Who knows?
I don't know, man.
Maybe she drank a lot. I don't know. That's just the thing. Is like we don't know. Like, we have her testimony, but the court didn't go with it. But there was later evidence that showed that maybe there was validity to her claim of self-defense. It's just the whole thing is really unfortunate, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But who do you think is more of a bad bitch, Nanny Hazel Doss or Aileen Wuornos?
Like, if I'm talking bad bitch...
If I'm talking bad bitch, I know my answer.
Aileen Wuornos.
I'm going to say Doss.
Really? Because
Doss was able to get away with it for 30 years, bro.
Yeah.
She killed more people. I mean, like, less people, like, time, like per time wise. Like, Aileen killed 7 within a span of a year. Doss killed 11 within a span of 30 years. But still, like, she spaced them out, and that's probably why she got away with it for so fucking long.
Mm-hmm.
It's just with Sam Doss, her last husband, her 5th husband, she got a little too overzealous. She got a little too big for her britches, so to speak, and then just decided to just go buck wild on some arsenic.
Yep.
Poison his favorite roast dinner. But if I was gonna go out, I'd want to go out eating roast dinner. So
yeah,
I can't really. I'm just kidding. No, that'd be bad. Given how painful that was.
Yeah.
Oh. Oof.
No, if
Those
I want
are
to,
not
if I'm
easy deaths.
gonna die, I'm gonna die fast. Like, I don't want to have to suffer.
Yeah, she
'Cause
used.
I hate pain.
Well, how do you want to die?
I don't fucking know. I kind of have a fear of death in a way.
I think that everyone should to an extent. If you don't, you're an idiot. I get not fearing it because it's inevitable, but I think that there should be a
Fearing
small
it because
level
you
of
don't
fear
know what's gonna happen.
because that's literally what keeps you alive. Like the innate urge to stay alive. Like when people say that they don't fear death, I'm like, okay, cool, but you still have the innate urge to stay alive because it's a human urge you can't really get rid of.
It's natural
you know,
instinct to stay alive.
That's, you know, that's why we flinch. That's why we get scared. That's why we feel the feeling of fear. It keeps us alive, you know, like, especially back in our caveman days, fear was useful.
Yeah.
Fear kept us from getting into trouble.
Yeah, but I mean, there's animals that can sense fear.
And when people say they don't fear death, I'm like, all right, bitch, sure. Fucking sure.
Let's see
at least a little bit.
When it happens.
Do you want to die then? If the answer is no, then you fear it to a little bit of an extent. Like, you have to, you know, just respect death. That's all I'm saying. You know, because if you don't respect it, then it might come when you're least expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
How do you want to die, though? I know how I want to die.
Well, I mean, like, I would just want it to be fast. I mean, like,
I don't want to be fast. I want to be slow.
You want your death to be slow?
Okay, let me explain. I don't want to die, you know, like on my deathbed at fucking 89 or whatever it is, you know, loved ones all around me crying like, oh, I love you so. You know, like, I'm not going to, that's fucking lame, dude. I want to die fucking extreme.
Shut up.
I'm talking shark attack, bro. I want to die by being mauled by a shark. Because that's fucking awesome. That's hardcore. And if I survive, even better, because I'm a shark attack survivor. But if I go out doing what I love. Getting mauled by a shark. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
Now, the only thing I'm thinking of is, like, what shark and where. I'm really kind of juggling between great white and tiger shark right now.
Well, tiger shark sounds cool, so...
Yeah, like, dude, to get mauled by a tiger shark. Also, I hear it has this very interesting, like, twisting, jerking technique that I really love to get.
Hello.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Or maybe, like, I would say something epic like skydiving accident, but that just sounds horrifying.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine?
No.
You pull that thing, nothing happens?
I would just...
You would just die, literally.
Yes.
Yeah. Literally.
I would just kill myself.
I would just fucking die. Oh, my God. Yeah, you would. Would you skydive? Would you skydive?
Maybe.
Maybe?
I'd probably scream all the way down.
I had a teacher that had skydived once, and she said that it was the scariest thing she ever done. And she said that you feel like you're going to hit the ground. Like, that's the feeling you get.
Well, yeah, because it's not natural to just be falling from the sky.
You know,
humans aren't meant to be falling from the sky.
Humans aren't meant to be up there.
Yeah, no, not really.
We're meant to be down here, you know, where it's nice and cozy and flat. You know,
where we can die of other natural causes.
Yeah, like volcanoes, earthquakes, cool. You know, I would want to get trapped in a natural disaster, maybe killed by an earthquake.
Maybe getting crushed by a piano.
Ooh, from like a 3-story building?
Yeah.
That would be quick.
It would be unexpected.
It'd be cartoonish. It'd be funny, too.
Cartoonish,
I would laugh.
Unexpected, quick. That's all I need.
I mean, like, I would laugh. And honestly, I want to be like Bill Murray at the, in Zombieland when he's dying. He goes out, like, in a funny way, you know, like he, like, prolongs his death breathing. It's like, and then you think he's dead and you're just like, you know, he, like, goes again.
He just takes a deep breath. He's like
you see the other characters, like, start to, like, settle, you know, like, oh, he's gone. And then he, like, goes again. It's, and they're like, you know.
Just die already, motherfucker.
And then, like, and then Emma Stone's character can't help but laugh. That's how I want to go out, making others laugh.
Yeah.
So, fucking just kill me now, because I'm knocking them dead. No, I'm just kidding. Probably not. Shade? Slay? What? What? Shade? Huh?
Shade?
With the fan?
No.
Are you implying shade?
I'm not implying shade.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Hey, bitch. I'm just fucking talking here. You know, I should probably wrap the show, huh? Well, that was the presentation. We covered Nanny Hazel Doss, killer of 11 people, and Aileen Wuornos, killer of 7 people. 2 very interesting cases for 2 very different reasons. I would say Doss is more interesting for the crimes themselves, and Wuornos, while the crimes were pretty unspectacular, she shot men in the chest. Just all the mysticism around her and around the case, all the questions are what make it interesting. And we're definitely going to have to watch Monster, for sure.
Yeah.
I actually haven't seen it yet, so I really want to watch it as well. And, like, like Charlize Theron just like blows it out of the water apparently. But all right, I say that was a good time.
Yeah.
All right, now why don't we
Y'all had a good time.
Hope y'all had a good time. Now, why don't we wrap this shit up, boy? I would be remiss if I did not finish off our lovely, lovely show today with a good old... Good night, everybody.
Good night. Let us boogie.
Later, bitches.